Greetings and welcome to Mysteries of Haitian Voodoo. This week, we will continue the conversation on Bwa Kayiman, and we also have a special contribution to the discussion from Houngan M'aitre H.
Welcome to Mysteries of Haitian Voodoo. I am Papa Mystique, and I am joined by my co-host, Natara Rose. This week, we will be continuing our discussion of Bwa Kayiman. Last week, we got the story from Houngan M'aitre from Lakou Souvnans of Bwa Kayiman. This week, we will be going into further details, and we will have a special clip from another Houngan, from Lakou Souvnans, who will also give us details of Bwa Kayiman, and we can continue that discussion into next week. But today, we want to talk about Macandal. We want to talk about Tijan Viximar, Mainette Boachesh, Cécile Fatiman, Dati Boukman, and others that were a part of the Bwa Kayiman ceremony. Now, last week we established the fact that the Bwa Kayiman ceremony was actually a voodoo congress where people from all different tribes, religions were a part of this huge voodoo congress. Now, while they were there, they were discussing what they were going to do in response to the slavery that was happening on the island. And so as they were having a meeting of the minds and the spirit, they determined that the only resolve for their particular situation of slavery was either to unite and fight or die. Because to many of them, slavery was death. So they would die avenging their liberty against the plantation owners who were driving slavery, all throughout the country. So I want to take a short look at Macandal, because Macandal, he is such a revered figure in Haiti's history. He came to Saint-Domingue at 12 years old. He was very educated, smart, witty, and he knew several languages. They say that he could read and write Arabic, but he also taught himself French, and he taught himself Spanish, and he taught himself several different languages, tribal languages, which gave him an advantage over not just slaves, but also the plantation owners, because he could communicate well amongst the different tribes. And he was able to take his message and relay it to many different groups of people and organize them together and create a network.
Can you dive a little bit deeper into this network that Macandal created?
So this network would lay the foundation for what you call a société in voodoo. So a secret society or société is where they have a community of people who share certain secrets, secret traditions and rituals and, knowledge about casse-fait or plants, herbs, things of that nature. So they know remedies, they know poisons, they know magic with, all the botanicals. And so that's what Macandal specialized in. He specialized in casse-fait, coming up with remedies as well as making poisons as well. And I'm pretty sure that the magic that's involved with the plants, he was really good with that as well, because in his story of his death, they say that he was ultimately captured by the French, after he had went on this spree of, killing hundreds of plantation owners and their families through the société that was making the poisons. And so there was a lot of women involved, because they had to directly poison their food and their water, which is how they got, to directly attack the plantation owners. So he had a lot of help from women, and one woman in particular, her name is Brigitte. They say she was a part of, a key, integral part of this, what they call a conspiracy, but also the société. So what we're looking at when we're talking about Makandal is that he is the one that, pretty much laid the foundation for all of these sociétés today. Société Makandal. It was the first one, that was created that, basically shared secrets, very important secrets, and especially at that time that were integral to, Haiti's liberation. Because Makandal is the one that prophesied that not only were the slaves going to be free, but that they were going to take over the country. And so the magic that's associated with, him and his casse-fait possibly played a role in his death, because they say that he was burned at the stake, but that he broke free. And when he broke free, although many French say that he was recaptured and, remounted on the stake and burnt again, but many slaves said that they witnessed him turn into a mosquito. And it's quite known that Makandal prophesied that he would come back as a mosquito and, avenge his death, and fight for the liberty. And within the history of Haiti, there was a wave of yellow fever that was killing many soldiers. I believe the British and the French were suffering from yellow fever, so they couldn't really do anything in Haiti because, they were sick from yellow fever. A lot of them didn't make it out of it. And so that's the legend of Makandal. 33 years before Bwa Kayiman actually happened, it was his ideology of uniting everyone, and not just voodooism, but it didn't matter if you were a Christian. It didn't matter, if you were a Muslim, which they say he was Muslim. I'm not sure, 100% sure on that. But, if you think about it, he was the one that united everyone, regardless of whatever your spiritual practice was. If you was a slave and you want to get out of slavery, or if you was just against slavery, you was on his side. That's how he looked at it. If you was against slavery and you wanted to unite and do something, he was on his side. If you were complacent with slavery, if you were, fine with whatever your role was in slavery, you were more than likely on his list of people that he wanted to get rid of. That's just how Makandal was. And he was a formidable leader, strong leader, and he laid the foundation for not only Bwa Kayiman, but also the société in voodoo. And Makandal is regarded as a Loa god. So he was basically a Loa god. He was once a person, and now he traverse Alada to become a Loa. And he provides protection. So that's Makandal, and how he laid the foundation for Bwa Kayiman. Now, we're going to fast forward and get into Boukman. Makandal Boukman, as one Houngan calls him. And we're going to talk about Daddy Boukman and his role in Bwa Kayiman. So Dari Bukman, or as some say, Makandal Bukman, because as Sambael said to us, he said that Dari Bukman is going to become a descendant of Makandal. And I'm pretty sure he's talking about spiritually, that Dari Bukman is going to come in the spirit of Makandal and uniting everybody, you know what I'm saying, in order to, go against the culture of slavery, to eradicate slavery on the island. And so Dari Bukman is going to come in the spirit of Makandal and uniting different tribes, uniting slaves, ex-slaves, freedmen, maroons, just anyone who wanted to fight on the side of, revolution where Haiti could be liberated. This was who, Dari Bukman was basically, representing. He was just representing the side of liberation. And so, coming in the spirit of Makandal, Bukman was also a great leader. And so Bukman, he was a camp commander, and a commander a slave commander at those times was basically someone who was a slave who was, in charge of basically telling what the other slaves what to do. And so at 5 a.m, they'd ring a bell, and then, Bukman would give the prayer, and they would, start working. And so that's one thing that I noticed is that, Bwa Kayiman is the result of, many great leaders, and so with Bukman leading the prayer, he had became used to, and being the commander, he had become used to a position of authority. And many said that he was a great leader himself, and that, he knew how to motivate people. So he was very good at motivating people. And so it's with this skill that Bukman became, the leader of Bwa Kayiman that night, because he was used to giving that prayer, every day before work. And so he used that skill that night at Bwa Kayiman, you know what I'm saying? And, before that, basically just organizing everyone. So Bukman would be the Houngan, and they say he was also an imam, that he practiced Islam, that he was an imam, but some say that there's no evidence that he was Muslim. There is a term called Bwa Kayiman, and that is basically to say that there are lies associated with Bwa Kayiman. So I won't get into that too much today, but just know that there are people who are saying that Dari Bukman was not a Muslim, okay? But according to the information that I got from, several different Houngans, Bukman was a Muslim. And so it's believed that he could have been an imam in the Islam religion is basically like a priest. So it's very possible that he was an imam. He also led the prayer as a commander. And so he was used to basically speaking to people and, motivating them and, lighting them up spiritually. That was what he was used to doing. So, Bukman, he was a commander. Some say he became a coach driver too as well. I'm not sure how true that is either. But, he did work his way into becoming a leader that night at Bwa Kayiman. Okay? And, he was a rebel who was fighting, for the freedom of the Haitians. And so he was able to organize many different tribes, many people from many different religions, and to come together that night. Now, there was also Cecile Fatiman, or Mambo Iman, who was also presiding over the ceremony that night. And so Mambo Iman, she is definitely credited with being probably the main organizer of Bwa Kayiman, because as women back in those days, they had access to more spaces than the enslaved men. And so the women played a key role in organizing. And some say that it took Mambo Iman or Cecile Fatiman, 4 years to basically organize the Bwa Kayiman ceremony that night, August 14, 1791. 4 years of vetting, 4 years of secrecy, 4 years of learning who to trust, who you can't trust, So she was definitely played an integral role in the organization of Bwa Kayiman, and she was also the mambo, one of the presiding mambos that night at Bwa Kayiman. Now, Cecile Fatiman, or Mambo Iman, will basically play a huge role in voodoo. And they say she's the one that established the voodoo règlement of chanter, or règlement of songs, right? So they say she's the one that established that. As well, Mambo Iman, or Cecile Fatiman, she would marry a future president of Haiti. And she was also considered a confidant, and as someone who would give guidance, and her opinion would be sought for many different affairs relating to Haiti's liberation. So they say that she was helping Dessalines, helping to Saint Louverture. They would all seek her help or her guidance. She was that influential, and she was an older lady who was married to a younger man, and at that time, as I mentioned, if you look at some of the wives of some of those who had played a key role in the revolution, their wives were older women, which would tell you that these older women would provide guidance to their husbands because they were learned, probably well read, and they were probably associated, like Mambo Iman, with the people on a spiritual level, and so there would probably be some spiritual guidance there. So Mambo Iman played a significant role in Bwa Kayiman that night, and we'll get into the story where they say that she's the one that sacrificed a black pig that night. But we all know from listening last week that there was no black pig, that it was a cochon marron, and it was Tijan Viximar. And that's who we're going to talk about next. So Tijan Viximar, he is what some people call the Haitian Jesus Christ, because he sacrificed his life. Now, who was he? Well, Tijan Viximar was from the Bizango tribe. And so if you look in our history, there's a Bizango tribe from Africa. And that's the tribe that Tijan Viximar was from. And he did practice of voodoo, he was a voodoo practitioner. And so Tijan Viximar, which a lot of people say that he's from either Jacmel or Seymour. I don't remember. But they say he's from one of those areas, which is, a lot to be asked about, particularly when you talk about the night of Bwa Kayiman, how he was able to, be there that night, if he was coming from, so far. But, I think, like I mentioned earlier, that all of the people who attended Bwa Kayiman, they attended to come up with a resolve, and nothing was going to be the same that night. So Tijan Viximar, he attended, and then he said that he wanted to give his life since they did not have a sacrifice. Okay. Now, Tijan Viximar, and him sacrificing his life that night, they say he was mounted by Dan Bala Huero, the Loi Dan Bala Huero. So when he sacrificed his life that night, they say the Loi Dan Bala Huero is the one who mounted him. And I'm pretty sure many of you have heard that Ezili Dantor mounted Mambo Imano, Cecile Fatiman, that night when the black pig was sacrificed. Well, they also say that Houngan M'aitre H was mounted that night too by Ogu, by the Ogu frequency, and many say it was Ogu Ferai, right? So it's possible that the three main people involved with the ceremony, M'aitre H was mounted by Ogu Ferai, Cecile Fatiman was mounted by Ezili Dantor, and Tijan Viximar was mounted by Dambala. Now, this is known as the Trinity. Many people call this the Trinity because of those three lois that were there. Now, according to Sambael and others, they say a lot of lois were there that night. 401 lois were there that night and mounted people that night. So it wasn't just Danbala, it wasn't just Ogu Ferai, it wasn't just Ezili Dantor, it was all the lois that were there that night. And this is what people need to understand, that when you call on the lois, all of them come. All of them are there. Just what people have to understand. All of the lois are there. So you may think that you're calling one loi, but they bring in the whole family. You see? So people need to understand that with that voodoo ceremony, with that voodoo congress that they had, and people were getting mounted, all of the lois were there, and all of the lois were mounting people. Now, we'll take a short break to answer a couple of questions, and then we'll continue back with the story of Bwa Kayiman.
So, was Dessalines at Bwa Kayiman?
So, something that I'm noticing about Bwa Kayiman is that many of the people who are important historical figures in the fight for Haiti's liberation, they have an association with voodoo. So, Mayinette Bwa Shesh, she was also a mambo that was a part of the Bwa Kayiman ceremony. Some say she's the one that sacrificed the black pig, but again, as we heard, that they didn't have a beast. So we kind of are wondering, what her role really was, right? What was the role of the Mambos that night? But they say she was there, she served that night, and Mayinette is also Loa, who was once a person. They say she was Mai Dede Basile. So Mai Dede Basile, or Dede Basile, was a woman who worked for Emperor Dessalines. Now, she had a brother and a sister who died while fighting for Dessalines. And they say that after her brother and sister died, that she went crazy. Her head wasn't straight. And so, when she was informed of Dessalines' assassination, they say she's the one that went and collected Dessalines' remains and took his remains and hid it on a plate for Satan. So they say this is who Mainette Bwa Kayiman is. So they also call Mainette H. So we see that Dessalines is connected to Mainette Bwa Kayiman. We see that Dessalines is also connected to Cecile Fatiman. And so, it is the belief of many people that Dessalines was also present at Bwa Kayiman. So all the important revolutionary leaders, they were there. So something else that's important, because remember I talked to you earlier about Macandal and him laying the foundation for the Société. Well, Dessalines became emperor of Haiti, but the title of emperor had a dual significance for Dessalines because in Société they have the role of emperor for a voodoo priest. They have the role of emperor. Once they complete a certain level of voodoo practice and theory and things of that nature, then they're able to ascend to the role of emperor once they get baptized for the Société, in Champuel Bizango, Macandal. So, with that being said, Dessalines was also considered the first emperor for the Société. So Dessalines was connected to the people, to the communities, to the sociétés. He was connected to them, and they looked at him as a great leader because he didn't play games with the French. He didn't play games with the French at all. He had one motto, and it was, coupe tête boule caille. You know what I'm saying? And that was why a lot of people loved him, because he was a no-nonsense type of person. And so when he became emperor of Haiti, he also wore the title of emperor of the Société. So Dessalines was very connected to voodoo, while many people may say otherwise. He's venerated within the voodoo, and he's ascended. They consider him up there like a Loa. So Dessalines is they call him the father of Haiti. So when we look at the people who are involved in Bwa Kayiman, a lot of them were connected to Dessalines. Even though some stories may not explicitly state that he was there, many do believe that he was there. So, they say Dessalines was there, Mainette Bwa Kayiman was there, Tijan Viximan, Cecile Fatiman, Dirty Bookman, and a lot of people say Mambo Edaiz was there, and all of the Loa, all of the Loa were there. that night. And so, this is the story of Bwa Kayiman. It was a voodoo congress. Many people played a role that night, and there was a sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice was a human sacrifice by a man by the name of Jean Viximal or Jean Viximal Legon, right? So he gave his life that night, and that night was not the same for a lot of people. Now, I do have a clip that I'm going to play from Houngan M'aitre H from Lakou Souvnans, and basically he's going to talk to us about, the secrets that are within Haitian voodoo, and the secrets that are probably, from that night of Bwa Kayiman that have not been told and will probably not be told unless it's to the right people. But we'll listen to what Houngan M'aitre H has to say, and then we'll continue with the show.
Nous te sacrifié non seulement un cochon, mais nous te sacrifié si la nous te relé Jean-Baptiste Vixama le Grand. Bon, bah dit c'est nous qui te sacrifié, il te sacrifié tête li, ça nous relé plutôt un suicide. Eh bien, l'homme pose des questions pour qui ça est-ce que tu as fait comme ça? Il dit tout simplement c'est parce que cochon c'est un symbole force au lieu d'un symbole que nous utilisons pour saleté dans le pays nous Jean Blanc fait nous là, c'était plutôt un symbole de force. Esclaves yo te besoin ça nous relé énergie pour yo bataille, vraiment pile énergie. De ce fait, puisque cochon créole nous te gagne, c'est cochon yo qui symbolise force et qui réellement sauvage le ouvlé, qui résistant tout. Yo te utilisé sans cochon ça yo pour te capable quoi signer chaque syllabe qui te présent et peut-être faire goûter afin que yo te capable gagner en pile énergie pour yo mener combat ça et comme ça tout ba yo en pile protection. Et puis yo fait comprendre que Jean-Baptiste Vixama le Grand à l'époque te gagné 22 ans, c'était un petit garçon qui était encore puceau. Ça nous les puceaux c'est si là qui pas ko aller dans femme, qui pas ko aller du tout dans relation. Eh bien de ce fait, sans monsieur était réellement puissant, il était utilisé monsieur le d'en bas là monter sous monsieur ou du moins maillot frais sous monsieur, il était décidé pour te couper veine qui n'a ponyette li, pour te bailler sang li comme un sang pur, pour te capable porter qu'on a ka esclavio le fin gen force, ça nous relé dévouement parce que gen force là c'est une, gen dévouement c'est deux, ou capable gen force, bon pas gen dévouement pour bataille. De ce fait, le Jean-Baptiste Vixama le Grand dit eh bien faut gen si là qui pour sacrifier tête. Bien que gen quelques histoires attendez dire, c'est seulement Jean-Baptiste Vixama le Grand qui était sacrifié qui bail sang tant que cochon hein? Même m'a dit que en pile côté tout faire recherche, yo dit nous c'est les deux qui te mélangé, une bail en pile force, l'autre la bail dévouement, donc li bail esclavio, force pour plonger à faire travail à faire sans crainte. De ce fait, nous te gagné en pile esprit. On prend par exemple, nous te gagné Ilé qui c'était un esclave qui était marron qui réclamait par une énergie dans bois qui était vinn capable chita avec énergie nous les mettre grand bois pour venir faire un seul acte. Et bien si là ça te kon bay poison pile, yo dit nous qui te kon tourner crabe et puis qui poisonner blanc yo, les au piqué blanc yo et tourner paquet l'autre cause encore, nous te kon paquet l'autre esprit qui te may offrir soin pile l'autre monde qui était présent dans cérémonie yo. Mis à part prière et chant que nous te gagné surtout c'est pas tant créole parce que à l'époque nous pas de bon créole qui est aussi soigné, nous te plutôt chanter en lingala, nous chanter en fond et oui et autres eh bien, pour nous être capable de faire énergie, ça y est, maillot frais, avec toute puissance que vous gagnez, pour être capable de venir nous qui gens pour faire bataille là. Et ça nous va regarder le 22 août, cérémonie, ça va porter fruit. Côté le 22 août, nous pral péter une révolte des esclaves, côté n'a boulé combien chancan, combien chamaillis, boulé combien, étudié combien colons, ça nous capable de dire français, et l'autre nation qui était accompagné, et bien nous tuons un paquet de colons, et bien quand ça colons tuons un paquet dans nous-mêmes tout, dans la bataille là, quand ça nous boule en pile, bien que tu pensé que tu gagné, côté qu'on a fait notre travail, eh bien, ces révoltes, ça qui parle d'une cause, ouais, réellement, faut que tu aies nous espace là. C'est pour me dire, c'est Houngan Ferraille qui était maillot frais sous Silano et la Delaïde, je ne peux pas dire parce que moi pas de présent, mais selon les gens dit oui. Dire c'est Houngan Badagri et Grand Guiton qui tape maillot frais sous Jean-Jacques Dessalines, nous capables de dire oui, énergie ça était là, mais nous pas capables de dire si réellement à 250% ou bien à 100%, si c'était exactement énergie ça qui était maillot frais sous chaque grand monde que nous dit. Parce que tout ça m'a dit là, il vient à partir de histoire que vous racontez dans la recherche moi tout, me poser plusieurs questions, me réunir, me ça qui est commun. Mais dire de fond en comble, moi t'es là, moi comme tout ça t'est passé, comme moi t'en des grands pile qui te très connaisseur de moi m'ba tout connaisseur ça qui dit moi t'es là, m'battre là, m'admettre que m'battre là. De ce fait, c'est histoire que me raconte par rapport à ça me jeune dans recherche parce que me fait déplacement pour me faire recherche. C'est ça me capable de porter pour vous. Parce qu'on connaît quand même des paroles, des bagailles qui fait que m'pas pas besoin de divulguer pour blanc pas captande parce que de toutes les manières des étrangers captande pas obligé qu'on trouve de secret nous quitter secret ça pour pays pour si là qui fait dans terre qui doit connaître qui personnel là que même pas choisi parler de quelques secrets qui te gagne dans déroulement cérémonie ça après ça que nous fin apprendre. Et secret ça a été capable peut-être aider moun yo mieux comprendre cérémonie même pas choisi divulguer ça yo pour l'autre nation pas tant de langage ça yo pour me protéger vos dons haïtiens.
We sacrificed not only a pig, we sacrificed Jean-Baptiste Vicsimar Legrand. I'm not going to say we sacrificed him. He sacrificed his own head, what you would call a suicide. When I posed the question, why did they do it like that? They simply said because the pig is a symbol of force. Although the whites want us to believe it represents dirtiness, it is better yet a symbol of force. The slaves wanted an energy for them to fight. Really, a lot of energy. The Creole pigs symbolized force and were really wild when they wanted, and resistant too. They would use the blood from these pigs to put crosses on each person and maybe even taste it, so they could get a lot of energy to bring this combat and also give them a lot more protection. And they maybe understand that Jean-Baptiste Vicsimar Legrand at the time was 22 years old and he was also a virgin. So his blood was in reality pure blood. They utilized him when Dambala mounted him. He decided to cut his veins so he can give his blood as pure blood so he can bring the slaves after they have force for them to have dedication. Because there's the force, that's one. There's the dedication, that's two. You can have force, but you don't have dedication to fight. So when Jean-Baptiste Vicsimar Legrand said, you have to have a person to sacrifice, he sacrificed his head. There's history that will say it was only Vicsimar who was sacrificed, who gave his life like the pig. But I'll tell you, there's places where I found in my research that it was both that were sacrificed. One gave a lot of force, the other gave dedication. But it gave the slaves force to plunge into the work without fear. We had a lot of spirits. Let's take, for example, we had Ile, who was a slave, who was brown, who reclaimed the energy in the bois so they can sit down with the energy called Met Grand Bois to do certain things. This person used to give poison a lot. He would turn into a crab and he would pick the whites and poison the whites. We had a lot of other spirits who mounted a lot of other people who were present in the ceremony. The prayers and the songs were, if not in Creole, they were in Lingala, Fon. So we can make these energies mount so they can give us how we are going to fight and what we're going to see the 22nd of August. This ceremony will pop off a revolt of slaves. We're burning many plantations and colonizers, who we would call the French, and the other nations who accompanied them. We killed a lot of colonizers, but they killed a bunch of us too. This is a revolt that made them realize they had to give us this space. If I had to tell you, tell me that it was Ogu Feral who mounted on Erais. I couldn't tell you because I wasn't present, but people say yes. Tell me it's Ogu Badagre and Glenn Guiton who mounted Dessalines. We can tell you yes, these energies were there, but we wouldn't be able to tell you 100% if it was these exact energies that mounted each single person that we are talking about. Everything that I'm telling you is a part of the history that they told me and my research too. I asked several questions about it too. But to say I know everything that happened, no, I wasn't there. So it's history that I'm recounting for you from my research. I traveled to do this research. So this is what I brought for you. But you know very well there are stories that I do not need to divulge so that the whites don't hear. Because have all manners that strangers can hear you. I'm not obligated to speak on our secrets. I leave these secrets for my country, those that are made in the land, who has a right to know among the people like themselves. I do not choose to speak on these secrets that they had in the dedication of the ceremony until after they have finished learning. These secrets could have possibly aided them in understanding the ceremony, but I choose not to divulge these secrets so other nations do not hear this type of language, so we protect Haitian voodoo. I want to thank Houngan M'aitre H for, giving us a breakdown on his knowledge of Bwa Kayiman, something that we're really interested in finding out about, because I believe that voodoo played an essential role in Haiti gaining their independence. And so whenever I hear the story of Bwa Kayiman, I am particularly thrilled when I hear about the spirits that mounted each person that was there, right? So they had a spiritual connection with the Loa that night that instilled in them the spirit of revolutionary war, right? So they say Ogu Ferai mounted whether it was Dessalines or whether it was Mambo Erais, or whether it was Ezeli Dantor who mounted Cecile Fatiman. In some cases I hear that it was it was Mambo Cecile Fatiman who was mounted by Bwa Montaï. And this is another Loa, that was present at Bwa Kayiman. And they say she mounted, that Bwa Montaï is who mounted Cecile Fatiman that night. All right, but of course they say Ezeli Dantor was there that night as well. And so we had a lot of the Loa that were there. And in particular, this is something big as well. August 14th was also the day that the Petro Nation was brought to Haiti. So the Petro Nation, as we know, it was brought to us on August 14th, 1791, the night of Bwa Kayiman. This is when Petro was revealed to us. And it was Houngan Dati Boukman and Lemba, and they have a law that they call Zao Lemba, based on this guy Lemba, who fought for the liberation of the Dominican Republic. So it was him and Boukman who brought Petro nation. There's also talk about, some of the law that associated with, with the Petuo nation, bringing the Petuo nation, saying that these were real people who basically ascended into becoming Loa. So when you talk about Loa, you have Loa who are ancient, who've been around for a very long time, and then you have Loa who, they just came, say, with the Petuo nation. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always new Loa being made, because a lot of your ancestors who are venerated, they become Loa themselves. So this was an important night in voodoo for several reasons. And what we noticed is, like I mentioned earlier, is that Dessalines, he had to either be there or he was associated with a lot of people who were there, And so that's one of the reasons he's looked at as the father of our nation, because he respected voodoo himself. He respected voodoo while a lot of other people were trying to, talk bad about voodoo over the years, and, voodoo's being, voodoo wizards are being persecuted. There were some people within Haiti's political history who actually supported voodoo. And we'll be getting into that over the next few episodes as well. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Mysteries of Haitian Voodoo this week. And again, anytime you come and listen to the show, please make sure you follow and share. And we'll always be bringing you, new information. We're always going to have something to go over as it pertains to Haitian Voodoo for those that want to learn. And if you want to take it even further, we can, connect you with the right people, to help you within your journey. With that being said, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank my co-host, Natara Rose. I want to thank Houngan M'aitre H, who gave us a few words today. We'll probably have some more from him going into next week as well. So I want to thank everybody for listening, joining in, and everybody who will help make this particular show here a reality. And we'll be going into more about a lot of the law and some of the other things about Haitian Voodoo. So make sure you stay tuned and follow us on all channels. You can go ahead and hit us up on TikTok at Papa.Mystique. You can hit us up on X at Papa Mystique. You can hit us up on Instagram at Papa.Mystique. You can visit our website, PapaMystique.com. Grab up a couple of t-shirts and follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube channel, Papa Mystique. And you can also follow us on, the other platforms that we're on. So look out for the book coming out soon, Mysteries of Haitian Voodoo. And with that being said, I want to thank everybody. Peace.